Backstory. I have been a good person my whole life and so basically a doormat. I started enacting consequences last year and basically just blocking people and kicking them out of my life. Unfortunately, the time has come for some pettiness. Backstory. For 19 years, my in-laws have ignored me except to insult me. My sister-in-law and I were trying to connect a couple of years ago. I thought maybe she was a better person than the others when she married into the family, so sister-in-law and I shared information about ourselves with each other. We were both lifelong members of this one religion. When I shared, I was no longer part of the religion. I didn't just mention it in passing. I told her my entire life-changing story, and she even commented on it. When a religious holiday came around, sister-in-law specifically handwrote what I no longer believed on a card for myself, my husband, and our kid. Hurt and offended, I let her know that I had confided in her and it was hurtful for her to handwrite what she did. Knowing I no longer believed, she refused to take accountability and basically made excuses and said she'd do it again. So this holiday rolls around and she sends gifts for my husband and my kid. She leaves me out. As I had said, I no longer trust her to get me gifts or cards, but she didn't even ask what I celebrate so she can get me something appropriate. I personally feel she should have not gotten anyone gifts, or consulted first as to what she should do. As with couples, it's rude to just ignore one. This may not seem like a big deal, except this has been a long-going pattern for many, many years. They make zero effort to get to know me and make zero effort for me. Another example is at family dinners, with them knowing I'm a vegetarian and sometimes vegan. It took nearly 20 years of dinners where I have to bring my own food and they act like I'm rude when I bring my own dish, so I have something to eat before my husband and I stopped going to dinners. To add more to the story, my brother-in-law, married to my sister-in-law, likes to push my boundaries even though he works for us. Even though I determine his pay rate, I told him I no longer celebrate birthdays, but he forgets and wishes me happy birthday anyway. He actually has a weird compulsion to do things people have asked him not to do, as we've gotten complaints from customers and coworkers before. He also doubles down and refuses to take responsibility. Unfortunately, he's our best and only person in his exact position, so we want to save firing him as a last resort. So after deliberating last night, here's the plan. Sister-in-law hates desserts. She insists she's overcome her eating disorder. She's been a healthy weight for nearly 8 years. They actually stopped celebrating Thanksgiving and actively tried to keep desserts out of the house. She gets upset when people bring her kids unhealthy food and gets upset when her husband brings desserts home. In other words, she gets upset when others don't consider her. I've always been considerate of her, and when I hosted dinners, I'd ask her if the menu was okay with her, and I never included any dessert. Not today. We're gonna hit up the bakery for cake, donuts, ice cream, cupcakes, and cookies and drop it off at their house. The kids will be home, and we're gonna make sure they know dessert is here. We're gonna make it clear, oh, it's not for you, sister-in-law. It's for your husband and kids. You know, because it's the right thing to do to just leave someone out and not consider them. Just as she insisted, husband and I are weirdly excited, as we've never been rude or inconsiderate to them before, so we don't know what to expect. Update. We went to a grocery store and selected the following: a slice of beautiful rainbow-layered cake, donuts of several varieties, 2 berry pastries, a nice, fancy chocolate cream-layered cake, chocolate frosted mini cupcakes, their older kids' favorite ice cream, a large Coke for each kid. We parked outside their house and gathered everything to go knock. My husband got nervous as we opened the gate and asked if I'm sure we shouldn't call them first. I reminded him if being considerate is our goal today, it was not. We knock on the door and their oldest son, around 4 years old, opens it. I'm relieved sister-in-law didn't open the door. As his dad comes up behind him, I pull out the rainbow cake slice and show him and tell him we've brought treats. His sweet little face lights up. Brother-in-law opens the door wide for us, clearly surprised. As we step just inside the doorway, sister-in-law comes out from the hall, and my husband said later her eyes were very wide. I was ignoring her, as that's the point. As my brother-in-law takes all the stuff I'm showing their oldest, I also brought soda. He looked pretty stoked. Their kids are so cute. I say, we brought treats for brother-in-law and the kids. Brother-in-law is happy, but sister-in-law is starting to get a little on guard or suspicious or what have you, she says. How thoughtful. But she is clearly unsure. As soon as she said that, I reiterated it's for brother-in-law and the kids, not looking at her. Brother-in-law made his kid say thank you to us, and he asked if we were staying, and we said nope, we had to go. So we left. That was very satisfying for me and my husband, as we knew later on that she lost it when she fully realized what was happening and what we brought. Serves her right. This happened about a year ago. My wife and I were shopping in one of the local Walmarts. We were in the garden section. My wife wanted to try a garden growing a few veggies. To set the stage, I was wearing tan sneakers, beige slacks, and a blue t-shirt. You know where this is going. But I was also in one of those riders since I can't walk very far, and my age is in the late 60s. My wife had a regular shopping cart. We were both inside the garden section. She was going to outside garden to pick up some cow manure, and I also told her to get some lawn fertilizer, but I told her specifically what I wanted. Those items were kept outside. I stayed inside to pick out some seed-starting pots and other things I think we needed. There was a woman in the same aisle looking at some potting mix. She was, I say, in her late 20s. She had heard the instructions I gave to my wife as to what to get. She said, "Excuse me, sir. I know you don't work here and you seem to be knowledgeable. So could you please answer a question? After 50 years of working retail, if the customer is polite, why not? Besides, I like talking to people." She was confused as to the potting mixes. I asked her what she is planting and what type of pots. I then made my suggestions as to which potting mix and why I chose it, what fertilizers to use, how much to water, and how much light needed. I was talking to this woman for about 15 minutes. She asked me how I have so much knowledge, and I told her that I have worked for Ace Hardware for 38 years. After she got what she wanted and needed, she thanked me many times. She put everything in her cart and exited the aisle. I grabbed my seed-starting pots and put them in the rider cart and proceeded to exit the aisle when I heard the screech of the Karen in the wild. I turned the cart around to face a woman in her late 40s to early 50s, typical short haircut, dressed nicely with her arms folded and tapping her foot. "Hey, where do you think you are going? You spent forever helping her, so now you are going to help me. As I said before, after working 50 years in retail, if the customer is polite, I will bend over backwards to help. If not polite, well, I still had to help them as it was still my job. She was not polite, and this wasn't my job, so screw it. Sorry, lady, I don't work here." Don't lie to me. Of course you work here. You helped that woman, and you are wearing the uniform. And why are you in one of those riders? Employees are supposed to be on their feet and walking, not using something made for a disabled person. She put her hands on the cart and tried to shake it. "You need to get out of that thing and come help me. Now." At this point, I was getting pissed. Several things, lady. 1. Anyone who wears a blue shirt doesn't make them a Walmart employee. 2. Anyone who is polite and asks nicely, even if I don't work here, I will try and help. You're not polite. She is now screaming, "Are you going to help me, or do I have to get your manager and get you fired?" Knee screaming back at her now. 3. And I am using a rider because due to my knees and back, I have trouble walking and standing. She then grabs my one wrist and tries pulling me off of the rider while screaming, "We are finding your manager and you are going to be fired." She gave a good yank and almost pulled me with the rider over. I managed with my other hand to get hers off of mine and pushed her back. She screamed, "How dare you touch me?" She tried to grab me again when I screamed as I grabbed my cane. "Lady, you touch me again and we will have a problem." She stopped, turned, and started to run out of the aisle with her arms waving and screaming that some employee was trying to beat her up and screaming for a manager. At that point, my phone rang. It was the wife, as we were supposed to meet in electronics. Briefly told her what happened and where I was. A minute later, here comes the parade. Karen, store manager, wearing yellow vest. An assistant store manager, also yellow vest. 2 blue-vested males, plainclothes security, and 1 blue-vested female. I am sitting in the rider with my arms folded. Karen is yelling, pointing at me that I am the employee who threatened her. Manager to Karen, this man here. On the rider, Karen to manager, yes, that employee. I want him fired. I could see the manager look at the assistant manager and both of them rolled their eyes. I think they knew they had a nutcase in Karen. Manager to Karen, ma'am. He is not an employee. He doesn't work here. Karen to manager. Yes, he does. I saw him helping another customer, and he is wearing the uniform. Manager to Karen. Everyone who wears a blue shirt is not a Walmart employee. Gee, now where did I hear that before? Karen to manager. Well, he said he was going to beat me up, and he also tried to assault me. Wow. Now I tried to assault her. The manager took Karen to one end of the aisle. The assistant was with me at the other end. The two blue vest males, one for each of us. During all of this, security with the female blue vest went to view the security tapes. They both came back after 15 minutes. Security was talking with the assistant and the manager came over. Security to manager and assistant, I took the tape back to where this gentleman was helping a woman with potting mix. She left, then that woman, Karen, was talking to him. She grabbed his arm, was yanking on it, almost tipped him and the rider over. He got her hand off of him. She tried to grab him again when he got his cane, and that's when she ran away. Manager, did he hit her with the cane? Security, nope. Manager, did he try to assault her? Security, nope. Manager, then why did she say that? Me, maybe because I told her that if she puts her hands on me again, we will have a problem. The assistant gave a choking sound after that comment, but the one male blue vest started to laugh and had to leave the aisle. Manager to me, the police should be here soon. Do you want to press charges? Me, yes. After another 5 minutes, 2 cops came in. The manager, assistant security, and the cops went over to Karen and trespassed her and escorted her out of the store and into the blue car. The store manager gave me and my wife a discount for our trouble. I was a research assistant for a university professor whilst doing my degree. The professor told me that I could use a portion of the research as my own research paper, required to graduate, and will be given a small research assistant allowance from the university. The research scope was so much broader than what I initially signed up for, and my 11 months contract with the university could not cover it all. Unfortunately, that professor was also my research paper advisor. The paper would have to be submitted to the advisor, and the advisor would release it to be reviewed by a team of professors. For her research work, I had to do every work from scratch, from the hypothesis, literature, data collection, data entry, analysis, and writing. The 11 months period was over, but I couldn't finish. I was stuck with no pay. University can't make the allowance disbursement as the professor didn't renew my contract, but had to work for free. The professor delayed submitting my research paper for the formal review, costing me months in limbo as I couldn't graduate without it and leave her research unfinished. I had to work day and night for an additional 6 months to finish. On top of it all, the professor used my writing word for word to get published without putting me in as a co-writer. I finally graduated. 6 months later, I got a call from the professor asking for all the data and the entire research work, everything. She didn't do any of it, so she has nothing in her record. This is for an audit. I told her that I lost everything, even my backup, and ceased all contact. I hope she gets into some form of trouble for it and gets what she deserves.